Welcome to Season 3 of This Is How My Brain Works, the podcast about living, thriving, and laughing through the ups and downs of neurodiversity. We explore the real stories, the real struggles, and the real strengths that come with thinking differently.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Is How My Brain Works. I'm Krista, and we have Jason and Michael here with us. Sarah's on assignment. And today I was watching, you all know I'm addicted to TikTok. Everybody knows. So I was watching one and something came up that was an interesting explanation about sort of emotional regulation between the difference between a neurotypical and a neurodivergent person. And it really made a lot of sense to me, and I think had me understand feedback I've gotten my whole life, which sort of comes in the package of you're so dramatic. Well, that was a lot. You're really intense. You're super passionate. Like these things. And what the video was talking about is how they sort of looked at the idea of emotional regulation as a ladder. So you have a ladder from sort of stasis up to, being overwhelmed or shut down or whatever. And that a neurotypical might have, say, for the purposes of this illustration, 10 rungs on the ladder, whereas a neurodivergent only has 4 rungs on the ladder. So
it's like an extension ladder as opposed to like a footstool.
Correct. So we go from stasis to overwhelmed with less rungs on our ladder to get there. So it's much
right, because we're just stepping up onto the step stool. We're just like, whoop, we're there.
Yeah,
and they're like
exactly.
this, oh, I'm climbing. No,
correct.
Extend it a little more.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, this is good. Right.
Exactly. And to bring us actually back, because I thought this was interesting too, back to, our episode we had with a guest with, I'm just now going to forget her name, Liz Rutledge, about meditation. I also heard that when you look at the MRIs of a neurodivergent, in comparison with a neurotypical, that our amygdalas are bigger. And so I also heard the tidbit today that if you meditate, they have studies that show that from Harvard, that if you meditate for up to 20 minutes a day, that the people who went through this, it was a guided 8-week study, their amygdalas got smaller and their gray matter in the frontal lobe grew, which I also found fascinating, because that's one of the reasons why we do jump into emotion is our amygdala tends to be bigger and more active than a neurotypical. And go.
Look at the amygdala on that guy.
All right.
No, that's fascinating.
That near the Adam's apple?
Well, it seems like the rungs on the ladder seems to make sense as far as like an analogy. What I've heard in therapy before is like, we're going to help you like either maintain or increase your window of emotional tolerance. So I always had this visual of like, here's where I'm operating in a regulated state, right? Anything above or below that, I'm dysregulated. And so it's like, what tools can I incorporate into my day-to-day to stay here? And so it makes sense to me where a neurotypical brain would have extra rungs on the ladder. They're able to weather more inputs and thoughts and whatnot. They're able to withstand. They have a higher tolerance for things without getting dysregulated. But it is also fascinating that maybe we access a more like creative or stimulated visual, our experience might be in some aspects richer or more all-encompassing because of that. Like
for sure,
like being on Jason's golf course, the neurotypical, they might not be hearing the bird going and then the foursome behind us and what they're ordering for lunch and the mower that's over here and all the things going on, and just noticing colors and all that, um, you know, maybe it's a little just a little bit more. I don't want to say, blinders, but like, yeah, I wonder how that does affect kind of experience.
Oh, I think that's very true. I mean, about the whole like, I think we hear and see and feel things differently.
Michael, golf is a good example.
Of
It's very mental.
this.
There is a lot of focus within oneself that needs to go on. And I can easily have conversations. I was talking to a guy wanted to play golf. He's like, "Well, who's playing with us?" And I told him, and he's like, "Well, how good are they?" I said, "It doesn't matter how good they are. It makes no difference how good they are. You have to focus on yourself." But we were talking about the athlete and whether you consider a golfer an athlete or not, the golfer, that those who succeed so well have the ability, something in their brain is allowing them, one, to repeat the exact same motion every single time. Every single time. They also have the patience to practice every day for 8 hours, which I do not have the patience for. I go right to the first tee, baby. Let's do it. You know what I mean? And consequently, my golf game suffers because I just don't have the discipline, the patience to sit there for three. I want to play. I don't want to chip for 5 hours. But we were talking about the mentality of a golfer and how they need to block out all these thoughts. They need to have the ability to block out all these thoughts to get to not get emotionally dysregulated when they have a bad shot. To there's a lot to learn in the mental game of golf, which I have very little of. I'm just going to say that. Um, and that's why I think it's such a wonderful puzzle because out on the golf course, if you really want to maintain 18 holes, the emotional dysregulation has to go away at some point. You've got to learn how to deal with bad shots. You've got to learn how to deal with adversity and not get too emotional about things because it doesn't help. And it's easy for me to see, it's easy for me to tell people, hey, you're swinging too hard. You look tense. Your shoulders are tense.
But what if part
Um,
of the, but what if
and
part of
but for
the,
me, it's like I need someone on the outside, and I do appreciate when people say to me, "Hey, you're really swinging too hard," or you keep looking up. Like
but
I
Jason, I've got a
appreciate.
question for you because
Yes.
my husband's a golfer too. So, but what I witness about my ADHD husband is that when he goes like, oh fuck, or whatever, that little bit of letting off steam or whatever, if he doesn't do it, it's almost like it's just simmering, simmering, simmering until it gets bigger and bigger. If he's trying to like be okay for everybody, but then it just gets bigger. But if he lets it off and he returns to stasis faster, right? He can climb down the rung if he can let something off. But I
Yeah.
think with us, there's like this perception from the neurotypical side that if we say something like, especially in an incredibly neutered environment in some ways of how we're all supposed to be playing nice all the time, like there is this sense of like, ooh, you're dangerous. Ooh, you're dramatic. Ooh, I can't be around you. You're too much. And I remember years ago that my oldest had said something in a classroom that upset everybody. And I remember going in a meeting with the teacher and say, you tell me the last time you didn't look at and say something about another adult and say the exact same thing about another adult. And it was one of those like everybody's stupid or whatever. And I was like, you tell me the next time as adults you didn't do that. Like it's called letting off steam. And I think that we've gotten, listen, everything in our nation is also very fraught too, but I think we've gotten to the point where people can't even let off a little bit of steam. So I guess my question to you, Jason, is like, because I don't think like Greg wouldn't get if someone said, "Hey, you're hitting too hard," or "Hey, keep your head down." Like that's all fine. But when the shot doesn't go well and he wants to go, oh, And then he
You know
returns
what?
to stasis. Why? But then now he's perceived as being too much.
You're right. But everyone as a golfer understands that emotion, I think.
Yeah.
But what I've tried to do, because I would do that, I have to admit, there was a time in my life where I threw a few clubs. There was a time in my life where I pounded clubs.
Yeah.
Um, and what I mean, and I profess this a lot, the the emotion, it is good to let out emotion. Completely agree. You don't want to store that all up. For me, I have found when I have hit a poor shot,
Mm.
I get really upset with myself. And what I've tried to do in recent years, because I need to maintain a focus for 18 holes, that me getting mad at myself does no good. It's and me letting off a little steam is okay, but I follow it up sometimes with sort of criticizing myself for not going through the routine that I normally go through. So you know what I do? I recover in the very next shot. I try and put that together so it refocuses me almost.
Mm.
But I've tried to calm that sort of emotion because one, I'm older. Maybe I can't hit the ball as far. And I'm just thankful and lucky to be out there with the people that I'm out there with. And so people who get angry and throw clubs, if I'm with them, I say, hey, look, it's a beautiful day. We're with great people and we're having fun. There's no need to get upset. And it's usually
But what if it's not? I mean, you're using it as a metaphor, and for you, it's not a metaphor because
no,
you
it's not a
actually do
metaphor,
all
but I
this. But
understand.
what about the metaphor of then taking it off the golf? Because sure, being on doing something recreational
Yes, you
and
know
having
what?
fun,
It
right?
translates off the golf
So
course. It does.
I,
It
I
translates off the golf course in that there is no benefit for me or anyone in my presence in my vicinity
Mm-hmm.
when me personally, when I get emotionally dysregulated,
Yeah.
because it is a step stool for me. It is a step stool. It's not a, it's not an
10 rung. It's
extension
not 10
ladder.
rungs.
It's not 10 rungs. And so, it's easy to tell people, hey, take a deep breath. Well, I'm already past that. My
Yeah.
brain doesn't work, you know, I'm so dysregulated that I can't even tell myself to breathe. I'm doing a lot better job of it,
Mm.
not only on the golf course, because I want to see myself maintain a focus and a certain demeanor through 18 holes, which is very difficult, but it's a puzzle, right? And outside of that, I've learned that I can't get too dysregulated.
Mm.
I can take a deep breath, just breathe for a second, because my decision making goes out the door. I'm so dysregulated. I've just got so many stories. I mean, my wife could tell you so many stories of how I've I've immediately gone to a point of dysregulation where I can't make proper decisions, timely. I can't make timely decisions. Too many things are going on in my head. Like there's alarms going off all over the place. And I'm trying to, just like the golf course, I'm just trying to take, just
I
take a
think
moment,
but
whatever that moment is.
this
Because my
idea of like
dysregulation, I go so quickly. I can get so quickly dysregulated.
this
And I'm trying to discover what is it? What is it? Is it lack of sleep? Is it maybe I haven't eaten today? Am I hangry? Have I had enough water? I start to look at sort of,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
But
What is it
but
about me that made me get to that
the,
point?
this idea of like the self-awareness that you're talking about, I think um, when you learn about ADHD and maybe like this, we don't have as many rungs on the ladder, or that could lead us into dysregulation quicker, or the emotionality piece, or the amygdala thing. I mean, just knowing those things, I think can whether letting off steam is a good thing or not, I think it is a good thing. However, it does have some ramifications to it because the non-ADHD person is still living with that little outburst for a while, like, whoa, what was that? Jesus.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
ADHD person's fine. They're back to regulated. They're back to stasis, as Krista was saying. But then the non-ADHD person might be personalizing that, internalizing that, and maybe they're sitting with it for a little while longer. Like that wasn't pleasant. Um, that's just something to like consider, I think, in dynamic in relationships. But I think, Jason, to your point, as far as like just noticing the thing, I think the objective is not to like never get emotional. I think it is like
Right,
to
totally.
recognize when you are, and then you are more easily able to get back into stasis. Exiting the I was exiting I-25 coming onto another busy street, and this guy was just sitting on the off ramp, just like because he was waiting because he wanted to get 3 lanes over so he could make the quick turn. And I'm like, okay, my son Gus is in the back seat, and I'm sitting there like, okay, buddy, you're gonna have to make a decision here. You might not be able to pull this one off due to the time of day, and just make an extra couple turns to get where you need to go. And so I'm noticing myself getting more and more elevated at this car ahead of me, and so now I'm getting I'm not dysregulated. I'm getting there. I'm like on the last rung to where I'm like, can I fit my car between his car and the curb now? Because I'm just gonna go around this asshole. Or and now I'm starting to talk. Come on, buddy. What are
Yes,
you gonna do? Are
yes.
you gonna
Hey, friend. That's what I do. Hey,
But
friend.
you know
Hey
what I
friend?
do? I turn it into a Broadway tune. Like, hey, bud, what you doing?
Well,
Why
that's
you
good.
driving like that, you
I
son of
sing
a
those things
biscuit?
too.
I actually love that idea
That helps so much. Make it a Broadway tune.
I think that's a fantastic tool. I think it's a really, really great tool to incorporate because it takes you out of a thing, out of a loop of a place where you are, whether it's like shake it off, do a funny face, turn it into a musical. It disempowers that like that frustration, irritation that's building. Well, anyway, I decided to kind of like, you know what, just chill the F out, let this guy do what he needs to do. It happened on the next like light cycle and he got through. And then, but I still had a few more comments. Oh, you got what you needed there, guy. And
Right,
Gus is in the
right.
back seat, like,
You didn't put the
um,
campfire wasn't quite out yet.
my
You know what I'm
dad
saying?
is fucking crazy, right? Like you like what? Like he's just I go and I knew I go, buddy, sometimes I just need to talk things through to
Yeah.
help me out. He knows that I have ADHD. I've talked to him about the concept of flooding and where I get because it's important for him to know like sometimes when I do get dysregulated or that release happens, it's not at him. It's something that I'm experiencing that I had to go through. It's not your fault.
And you know
I'm
what? For
sorry if that
kids,
affected you.
and as a parent, I know it's happened in my life, but as a parent, you don't want your kids to see that.
Right.
You
Or
don't want to see, and
Well,
if
I mean, I
you,
think
even
that
your kids
depends.
or coworkers, whatever. So if you have the ability to turn it into something comedic, quote unquote, like a song, and vent that, kids love that.
Here's the
I
thing
mean,
I will
kids
say
love it.
though. Here's the thing that we chose to do is like not try to hide it or do that but we've just chosen to talk about it. So we've
yeah.
been pretty open to sort of say I got dysregulated, blah blah blah. I'm sort of, whatever. But I think that what has given us an opportunity to do in terms of parenting is that I we have so all of us have such a practiced way now of taking accountability. And because they've seen us do it, and I
Yeah.
have set up apologies in our family a long time to sort of say, "Hey, I'm sorry for what I did. This is what I think the impact was, and this is what I want you to know." And so to really like a full apology. And what's interesting is like this situation that I'm not going to go into, but that you all know about is that there was zero accountability on the other side. And I've said it 4 or 5 times. What I need right now is accountability from you for your piece of this puzzle, because it wasn't just me. And it was never given, ever. I don't expect it ever will. And that was a neurotypical person. And I will have to say, as much as we've had outbursts in the house or whatever, and we've had to go in and clean it up, every single one of us in this family is really good about cleaning it up, whatever it is, and whatever the thing is that you're coming forward to talk to about. And I'm really proud of that. So whether
Yeah.
it came because there was some outbursts or not, or childishness from our end or whatever, the outcome has been, I think, an entire, our kids are really able to take accountability and ask for forgiveness for things.
I think that's huge. In therapy sessions, I'll talk about, my dynamic with my kids and because I am worried about, hey, I kind of lost it. I got flooded. I got irritated, this and that. And she's basically saying, if you can talk about, like you're saying, Krista, if you can talk about what your experience was, this is what came up for me. This was my experience. The kid then says, "Oh, that wasn't because of me.
Right.
This is something that my mom or dad was going through. They explained it to me. Now I know what happened. There isn't that unknown about like, did I do that?
Right.
Am I the one making mom or dad mad?" Also, so that's a huge, huge piece of knowledge for your child. The second thing is when it does happen, because it's not if, it's what kind of repair are you going to do? It's
Yeah.
all about that repair. Because if it is, if it's like, hey, I'm sorry if this was upsetting to you, or I'm sorry if I got a little frustrated with you, those types of things. They're learning, your child is learning that process of it's okay to have emotions, and here's what happens if
And
things
it's a
go this
muscle
way.
too, right? It's practice because I got to tell you, like one thing I've noticed about myself in going through that process of being a parent is I have zero problem. I mean, it's so interesting to me when I'm having conversations with people who are just unable to take accountability or to say they're sorry, because I have zero problem going like, this is what I did. I understand how it could have hurt your feelings, and I'm really sorry. And how can I make it better? I've like zero problem with it. None. There's no ego around any of that. But I'll tell you where I do struggle is when people don't give that same grace back to me, and when and when they're really unable to do it. And honestly, I mean, because I don't think that's a neurotypical or I think there are plenty of neurodiverse individuals who can't do it either. But I think we're probably used to having to apologize our whole lives
Well,
for how our brains work.
but and isn't there like a hypervigilance around justice and fairness
Yeah.
with?
Oh, for me, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so I get really stuck. Like it will ruin a relationship eventually for me if I feel like you can't own your shit.
yeah.
Because I can't be the only one owning my shit in the relationship.
For me, it's consideration. That wasn't considerate. You didn't consider this, and that's where I'll kind
Mm.
of like start having a problem
Yeah.
if I don't feel like someone is considerate.
And I do get stuck on process versus outcome sometimes too, because sometimes I will say it's not the way it ended up fine. It's not that. It is how you treated me through the process. It is how, like, I do get stuck on process a lot. That's a big one for me.
Hey, why did you leave just a little bit of the chips at the bottom of the bag and put it back? I
Oh,
say, hey, that makes me really fucking mad, and I don't like that at all. But you've
yes.
done it for 3 years, and every time I go to get some chips for my dip, I think the bag is full, and then I realize there's 3 chips at the bottom of the bag.
Oh my gosh, Jason, I swear my entire family does this thing where they're like, I'm just gonna leave one in there. And I'm always
Because
like,
they don't want
yes.
to, one, they don't want to throw it away, and then they don't want to they don't want to be the last to
I
throw it away.
think
What about the
I
milk?
I think we
I'm
could
gonna have
record
some cereal now. Whoop. There's like
we could make a recording of that song and make millions of dollars for you, Jason.
That's a fantastic.
it does help. But as far as apologizing, I mean, we've talked about this a lot. There in certain I mean, this is kind of an aside to and but it is sort of dysregulation. There have been times in the past where I feel like embarrassed and ashamed
Hmm.
of something I've done. And that shame and embarrassment has prevented me from owning up to something. Do you understand? Like just
No.
owning up and being, you know what? That's on me. Because I am embarrassed that I drove, I don't know, that I hit something or that I forgot to do something or,
I think Jason,
you
for
know what
me,
I mean? And so for
I
me,
learned I learned
it's been
early
hard for
on.
me to own up to some things. I'm learning to do that, to
Yeah,
be like, it's on me.
I learned early on in my jobs in Hollywood. I was working with a producer, and and it really stuck with me, and it changed the way I thought about accountability, where he said, listen, if I don't know there's a problem, the problems don't get smaller and they get harder to solve. And if you feel shame or upset about something and you're scared to tell me, it is such a bigger problem than when it first
Right.
happens. And he said, and I am just going to ask you as your team member, and this wasn't just to me specifically, it was sort of a mentorship thing to several of us. And this was very early in my career. And he said, what I'm going to say is I would rather you say, hey, I think I did something wrong. I'm super sorry, but I needed you to know so we can fix it. And he said, the
Right.
amount of respect that you give me by letting me come alongside to fix something when it's fixable, you will get is huge. So early on in my career, I adopted, if I see it's wrong, I'm super fast to say, I apologize. How can I get in there and let's fix it? And that's partially the improv stuff too. There's been a mistake. Let's fix it. And um, but I've practiced that for a long time because I hear you, Jason, and I think that's very normal. And I know, sometimes I hear from Greg, I'm just sick of saying I'm sorry. Like I'm exhausted by saying I'm sorry. And I
Mm,
think that's a lot of us, right? Like it's a lot of us who feel like we had an emotion that was too much for someone
mm,
else and that we're sick of saying. But I think where I've been struggling on my unmasking journey over the last couple months, is how much I, there's a line that was like, if I'm, um, oh, I love it. It's Elise Myers. She says it. I think she's got t-shirts on it. She says, if I'm too much for you, go find less. And that's how I feel. I feel I've gone, so now I'm at this point lately where I'm like, oh, was I too much for you in that moment? Okay. Well, it's not, why is it my job to take care of your feelings in this? And I know this probably sounds incredibly selfish, but after years and years and years of masking and of trying to create rungs on the ladder that may not exist, I don't know. There are times where I'm like, I just need to go find my people. And if I'm too much for you, go find less. I, but
yeah.
I'm also in the menopause, we don't care season of my life. So I have less fucks to give than I had when I was younger.
Yep.
So,
Oh,
and we
wow.
are almost out of time, but does anyone want to wrap that one up?
Wow. No, I think this was a great exploration and just this idea of, I think the rungs thing should hit home with neurodiverse and neurotypical alike. It might kind of like shed some insight on both sides. Like, oh, maybe my neurodiverse partner is, you know, the, kind of a little more of that compassion, understanding on both sides,
And painters too, they would understand the rungs of a ladder.
Sure,
If you're
yeah.
a painter, if you're listening and you're a painter,
Sure.
Anybody who has to ascend and descend on a ladder would understand that pretty
But
well.
it's the first, I will have to say that metaphor or whatever was the first time that I had this moment of like, because again, we say it all the time on the show, you're only in your own brain. Like I will never know what a neurotypical sees, hears, feels, nothing. I will never have that experience. So to think that they have more rungs on a ladder than me is helpful to make sense of why other people can seem to say so calm, like eerily, weirdly calm, and like they don't maybe even appear like they care about
Yeah,
things.
my thing is like what, is that considered a virtue, like being
I
able to stay calm? Because sometimes it's like, hello, are you with us? Like what,
yeah.
but can you ramp up your enjoyment or your
Well,
excitement
right.
level,
That's why people like being around us because we're more fun. But I mean,
Exactly.
and there is this sense of, and I've said it before, and I heard another creator talk about his neurodivergence, talk about this week too. There is this sense of like dance monkey dance, right? There is this sense of like,
Yeah.
you're really fun to be around and we don't, and Michael, you've talked about that before with the like, let's go in your days of like, let's go out and do things all the time. Let's party, let's whatever. There is this sense of like, no, you're the class clown. You're the fun one. We need you here because you keep us going. You're so much fun. You're blah, blah, blah. But when that then shifts to need,
Yeah.
everyone disperses like the
I
ship is full of rats or something. Like
This
it's,
popped into my head on this episode where when I was waiting tables in my 20s, um, I went out. There was this girl that I kind of admired. I was like, I'm gonna go out with her and her friends to this club that I normally wouldn't go to. It was kind of a dance club type thing. That really wasn't my scene, but I was like, I'm enamored with this woman. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna hang with her friends. And I went nuts. I drank a ton. I was out on the dance floor. I was like life of the party guy. People loved it. It was fun. They like a week later, and I was kind of like, that was exhausting. I don't think I can pull that thing off again. Like
right.
like that was beyond my comfort zone, but I just went for it. And then like a week later, some of the people that were with us came to the restaurant. They're like, "Hey, you coming out with us again?" And I was like, "I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it." They're like, "Man, you're a one-trick pony." Like, where's the
Oh,
fun guy?
yeah. Where's the guy that we
Where
like?
we need you out with us again to do all that crazy stuff again. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, that as much as I'm a people pleaser and I like to go out and party and kind of like be the funny one, that was beyond what I'm capable of,
Yeah. Then
like
when you're not the
consistently.
dancing monkey, when you're not the
That was
dancing
very
monkey,
dancing monkey, yes.
then it's like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Are you okay?
Yep.
Is everything all right?
Yep. And that I'm sure that's how like Chris Farley felt, and it's like I have
Yeah,
to be on
exhausted.
all the time.
Yeah, no, that is, I think that's the thing. And perhaps sometimes where those of us who are neurodivergent can get really resentful
Yes.
is that everyone wants the good time, but no one wants to support.
Right. When we're
And
recovering and
yeah,
recharging.
so I think that is where there's again another creator that I've seen on TikTok and Instagram that they're showing how to sort of have spousal or partner support with if you're in a partnership with someone who's neurodivergent, and it's actually really interesting to look at. And but yeah, there comes a time where you wake up at some point and you go like, I'm good to have around when you want things from me, or you're getting the dopamine off of me, like you're vampiring the dopamine off of me.
Good.
But
Wow.
when
Yeah.
I need some dopamine, no one's there, and I've got to find it on my own. And
Mm.
that's where the lonely piece of the puzzle, I think, of being neurodivergent and feeling misunderstood shows up, because we don't create. That's the whole problem, right? We don't create really our own dopamine, and so when we're not,
Wow.
yeah, it's like it's a lot. And
That's a whole nother episode right there. That's you dropped something in the closing that I'm gonna have to think about for a little while.
but that's why I think we're really susceptible to energy vampires, right? Like when, they make you feel super loved and excited, and there's a dopamine hit at first with having someone who really wants to be around you for all the things, and you're ready to show up and be the things for them and like put on the Elton John glasses and make it work. But then at some point, when they can't surf the dopamine off of you because your dopamine is low, it all
Interesting.
stops.
Wow. To be
So
continued.
to be continued. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of This Is How My Brain Works. I'm Krista, and for Jason and Michael, we'll see you next time.
If you like this episode of This Is How My Brain Works, please like, subscribe, and share. This podcast is the creative work of This Is How My Brain Works. It is not authorized for use in training, development, or refinement of artificial intelligence or machine learning systems. Any attempt to copy, analyze, or repurpose this audio for AI training is explicitly prohibited.